And so we're going to move into our closed session area. And I'm just going to say what we're going to do, and then we're going to have the item that we added. When we go into closed session, the matters for discussion will be personnel, student discipline, sale or lease of property, probable or imminent litigation, collective negotiations. Okay, and then surveying the audience. Any audience members want to have time to comment? Okay, seeing none, and then we have one additional discussion item that was added earlier on the agenda, and that was the Village of Brookfield proposing some type of TIF, T-I-F-F, that we're reading about in the paper, and what would we like to discuss?
Yeah, well, I think they have maybe it's not an aggressive schedule, but I think they want to have this in place by March of 2016, and I think it's going to impact the school district. So what I'd like to have in an upcoming board meeting is somebody who can educate us on the impact that it's going to have on our finances, if that and what kind of obligation we have, and what kind of, if we have a voting say on this, what's the ramifications for the economic impact on this school district if that TIF district did go in place. I want to understand that. So,
does anyone know if we actually have any TIF districts within our district at this point?
Wasn't the Broadview in the TIF district?
it's not in ours.
It's across 22nd
No, across
Street.
22nd.
Well, and Board Member Cindy, you were part of the, remember when Brookfield did the 2020?
Master
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
I was chairman of that, yes.
Right? And the TIF districts they were talking about would have been in the Lyons Township district, if I remember correctly. And at that time, weren't they required to go to all the taxing bodies prior to approving that?
No. All they had to do was set up the TIF and wait for response. There was nothing to have approval by other taxing bodies on the TIF.
The school district has no voting rights on a TIF. Common practice would be usually a municipality holding a meeting with, either open to school board members or the school designee like the superintendent or business manager, so that we can ask questions and get an idea of what type of dollars they're looking at, so that we can go back when we do our projections, figure in those lost dollars in our levy. So if the TIF, the way I understood this is if the TIF accounted for roughly $10 million in new EAV, that's $10 million that we don't recoup a percentage of. So it would definitely have some impact on the district. But common practice would be the municipality, before they would do this, would have opportunities to sit with the school administration and school boards, or open at least an opportunity. I have not received any communication like that thus far, but I'll check again with our feeder super in District 95 to see if he's received anything. If not, maybe we can set something up. I'll also, Tim, if you could check with the auditor, possibly, or with Howie, just to see, if there was a TIF of approximately $10 million, how that would impact us over our projections.
I also have a friend who's a Riverside resident and a parent who consults and specializes in TIFs generally. I will talk to him.
We probably could ask Eris, too, that does all of our tax appeals, to weigh in on this, right, Tim?
Actually, he's the one to go to.
Yeah, I would say he's the one.
I'll have Tim get a quick write-up from Eris on the impact of a $10 to $15 million TIF on the school district.
And also with Eris too, ask him in his experience, how have school boards and school districts responded to TIFs? Do they ask for a hearing? Do they go to the hearing? You know what I mean? I know it's the village that votes for that and doesn't, They just listen to response, but ask him what has been past practice for other school districts.
And
Yeah, my experience is that usually the village would have a meeting with all of the taxing bodies that are going to be affected and discuss it with them, and then have regular meetings after that about the status of the TIF.
And in my recollection, it was popular. There were several TIF suggestions about 10 years ago. And they're not automatically approved, right? Isn't there some onus on the community to prove that it's a blighted area and unable to attract business, and that's why it's necessary for the TIF?
I think that's kind of what Gary's asking.
Yeah, let's find out.
That's what our
Yeah, I want to
If we
understand the
can gather
impact.
up some facts
Number one,
to-
financially in district. Number two, how a TIF is approved and what the, what impact. I'm concerned about district and on potential revenue sources. Unlike the village, that if they brought in they rehabbed it there and they brought in a bunch of commercial, they're gonna get the benefit of the sales tax immediately.
Well, rather than
We
speculate.
don't get it, so I don't wanna speculate, so I
No,
wanna
let's
get
just
some
ask
expert
our
in here
lawyer.
to see what the impact is.
I'm with you.
So for a future meeting, we'll put together some educational stuff for the board,
Great,
possibly before we would attend any type of meeting.
Yes.
good idea.
That's exactly what I'm.
Okay. Concluding the discussion items, can I get a motion to go into closed session for the items that I previously stated?
I move,
It's on page 3.
I move, resolve that the Board of Education Township High School, District 208, Cook County, Illinois, here enters closed session for the purpose of considering appointment, employment, or dismissal of employees, student discipline, sale or lease of land, probable and imminent litigation, and collective negotiations.
Second.
Mr. Cindy, Mr. Jepson with the second. Go for the vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.